I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking about why leave without saying a word.
This, in my opinion, is one of the cruelest ways to break up with someone that I can think of. Extremely painful, extremely confusing.
Yeah, it really is. You know, if you have a bond and a connection with somebody and you can't do it anymore, you at least owe them an honest conversation that is taking responsibility and not leaving that person feel like it was all their fault and that, you know, they did something horrible or that they're worthless, that you're just abandoning them like that. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times that's what happens to people that get abandoned like that.
Exactly.
So in this, we got a video today talking about this where basically this woman is dating a guy and he kind of just abandons her and she doesn't understand why he did it. Mm-hmm. But as I was reading it, I had ideas. And then when I got to it, I really was putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So she's in her late 40s and this guy's in his early 50s. And he's moved around the world a lot. Okay, and I believe a big part of that was to get away from his family of origin. Probably a lot of neglect or abuse there. Whatever was going on, I feel like that's why he kept moving around. Okay? So, she says that they met online in the spring of 2016 and then met in real life, in January of 2017. So I guess they were talking for about 6 months roughly when they finally got to meet. She said, "He had one serious relationship before me, never much intimacy, was raised strictly, went to nun school, girls and intimacy forbidden."
And remember that we're talking about someone in their early 50s here. Mm-hmm. And so one serious relationship in his life and not a lot of intimacy. Of course, she brings in the context that there was, it sounds like a religious schooling involved, a strict upbringing. Mm-hmm. So just to explain some of that.
Yep. So there might be some guilt around intimacy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. No affection from his parents, and they controlled whom he spent time with. So you could see why he'd want to get out of there. Mm-hmm. All right, this is going to be rough. Me, not much affection from my parents. When I was 12 years old, one night my dad touched me, and my mom didn't believe it. Dropped all physical contact after that. Okay, so this is big. Mm-hmm. And I mean, as horrible as it is that dad did that, for mom not to believe it makes it 10 times worse. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine the amount of anger and rage she felt, not just towards dad, but towards mom. And how can you not believe me? And how can you not protect me? How did you not know he was capable of doing these kind of things?
Right. And a lot of people are confused as to why sexual abuse in particular leads to so many damaging effects later on in life. And that's because that is one of the most fundamental boundaries that you have. It's a body boundary. Yep. And so when somebody crosses that, it really does, change your view of relationships in general. It changes who you can trust and who you can't trust. And it can distort your view as a young child of sexuality, of intimacy.
It's horrible.
And so it's something that's, one of the most fundamental boundaries that you can break there.
And I let her know that I did believe her. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because I wanted her to know that I have seen these kinds of things far often than you'd want to believe. But I absolutely did believe her. Mm-hmm. And I wanted her to feel like somebody finally understood, because, you know, we have seen cases like this far often than you'd want to know, but it happens a lot.
And a lot of times in families where the adults aren't believing the children who are speaking these things out, that child ends up interacting with the perpetrator far more often. You know, if there are family get-togethers, if it's somebody in the immediate family, you know, that person remains in the household. And so in these types of situations, when they don't have parental support or their guardian's support, you know, they end up being re-traumatized over and over and over again, and in the very least, at least having to interact with their perpetrator on a regular basis, which is horrible.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, you know, I've seen so many clients over the years that sometimes the mom doesn't want to believe it because she can't afford to live there without dad. They rely on the dad to pay the bills, or they don't want the marriage to fall apart. They're in denial. I mean, a lot of times the mother has been abused, and so, you know, how many times do we see the mom has been abused like that, and then they can't see when it's happening to their own children,
right,
for some bizarre reason.
Yeah, and there is research out there that you know, speaks to this as well, where the likelihood of, you know, a child being in that situation is higher if, you know, if that has also been present in other generations.
Yeah.
So, intergenerational things that are happening here, you know, I'm glad that she's aware. I'm glad that she's able to connect this to her story somehow. I'm curious to see where this goes.
And I'm sure it was hard for her to tell me that.
Oh, yeah.
Because imagine you tell your mom, she doesn't believe you. What are you going to tell somebody you've never even talked to before? But I did. And I've had a lot of people, I've had many people on calls tell me I was the first person they'd ever opened up to about that.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, to me, that felt really nice that they could trust me in that way, to not feel judged and to share something that's so painful or scary to open up about, that so many people are embarrassed or ashamed about, you know?
Yeah, and for us, it's really an honor. This is part of our work. This is part of what we want to contribute to the world, is giving people that safe place to be able to talk about these things, to be able to open up about them, and to give them the space to share their story.
All right, let's go on here. He and I had an amazing chemistry and an attraction. Intimacy too. First we met several times, or the first year we met several times. The year after, he was stressed at work and I got sick, but we kept a strong connection. He had never felt like this. We met a few times, once at his place, but he never introduced me to his adult son that lives with him. His family doesn't know about his private life. He has a lot of friends, mainly women, where he had lived. All right, so that's suspicious. He has a lot of female friends, and it's long distance, and he's not introducing her to the son. Yeah, what's going on here? You're not incorporating me into your life so much. He liked the connection without complications of feelings involved.
Guys, listen to these things when people say them early on.
Yep.
Now, there's some phrases that I hear that are almost repetitive. Now, I'm a robot. I don't have emotions. I just don't feel like that. You know, listen when people tell you these things. And that sounded like one of those phrases to me.
How about this one?
What?
I don't do relationships well. I'm not good in relationships. They almost go hand in hand, right? Okay. He never told his friends about me and never talked about them. See, I don't like the fact that he's not incorporating her into the life.
I think we should make a whole other video as to why social support is so important and why it is such a green flag in a partner. And really, it should be one of those foundational things.
I agree.
Being able to connect with somebody who has other people in their life who love and support them. That shows that they have experience socializing with others, that they are, you know, continually getting checked socially by their circle, that, you know, they have friends that they can rely on, that the friends can rely on them too. So that to me is really, really important. And when somebody doesn't have friends, I always think, okay, why? What's going on? Is it that you've pushed people away?
You don't get along with people.
Right.
What's going on? All right, let's keep going. If I asked, he didn't understand my interest, as friends had nothing to do with us. Wasn't comfortable being a secret. I don't blame her.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to feel like a secret to somebody.
This
No
entire
thanks.
time I'm looking at the camera like I'm in the office, side-eyeing the camera. Because I agree with her. I would also be uncomfortable being this hidden.
Yeah. It's a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
We met a few times before COVID, but the borders closed. Did start having deep conversations. I could tell or ask him anything. Felt supported in many ways. When talking about things in general and my life was easy. If more about us or his life, his response was more closed or avoiding. We talked a lot about my youth. He liked to learn through my stories the things he had missed in life. I felt important and needed. He always told me I was amazing and he felt lucky. Still, I could feel insecure about his feelings. If I expressed mine, I got no response. So I didn't do much. So it sounds like she would open up about how she felt about him, and he was like, thanks. I hear ya.
Yeah. Yep.
That's an interesting sentence you're telling me.
And sometimes, this is going to be a bold statement, but sometimes you will be with a partner who is so avoidant that they almost train you to be avoidant too.
That's a good point.
And
Go ahead.
What I mean is because they are not giving any attention to your needs, and so then you are experiencing, in essence, what they experienced in childhood, which is what made them become avoidant. People really saying, what your needs aren't important and giving up on them. So then you start to do that for yourself as to not annoy your partner.
Exactly.
Thinking, maybe they're right, maybe I am too emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to suppress your own feelings because you're mirroring what your partner is doing and how they're treating you. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Last year we went on vacation together and it was amazing. After that we still had daily messages. Calls were usually only when I asked. He canceled plans more times because of his work. He felt bad and wasn't sure he deserved me. It's another red flag there. A lot of times avoidants say that. 2 times he was gone for about 4 to 6 days without a word. He went to see his family where his mom was seriously ill. When telling how worried I had been, his concern was more about his own stress. So he didn't have any empathy for disappearing for 4 to 6 days. All he needed to do was say, hey, I'm going to visit my family this week. I need a little bit of time to work on some things. My mom is ill. I need some space, something like that.
Right.
But he didn't do that.
Right.
So somebody disappears, you're going to be overwhelmed with anxiety.
And what you want to look for is how someone responds to stress in a relationship. There are going to be moments in life where there's going to be hardships. Death is a natural part of being human. It's a natural part of being alive. How do they handle grief? How do they handle loss? How do they handle other things going on in life? Illness, fear, anxiety, all these things. So if he's already disappearing, completely shutting down, not giving her a word for days at a time, when they are used to speaking daily, that to me is a really big concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't think they weren't doing calls daily, but maybe text messages because he was only doing the calls when she asked. Okay. This year plans were canceled more times because of his work. He kept telling me I was amazing, asked if I was mad, if I still wanted to see him, said he was not good for me. All right. So more negative self-talk about things. And some guilt here that he feels like he's not living up to what she needs. He booked a flight for mid-December. He was overwhelmed at work, but wrote often for hours. I texted that I missed him and told him I wish we had the opportunity of life together. Okay, so I think this is a major component for this story here. Okay? She told him, I wish we had the opportunity of life together. So the minute I read that, I was thinking, oh boy, we got an avoidant. He doesn't think he's good enough for her. He's never had a long-term relationship. He's traveled a lot. There's clearly some family issues going on. And now she's talking about a life together. He's going to be like, whoops, I think I've been leading her on. He knows he's been leading her on. But I think that's all of a sudden I think that's what overwhelmed him. She said, had a misunderstanding, nothing much. He sent me a sweet goodnight message. I asked what time he would arrive. He would text later. Never went back. I think she means never texted back. Then didn't read my messages. Probably also not my emails. My calls went to his voicemail. I was sick, worrying. A few days before he would leave home, he had been on LinkedIn. 5 days after his last message, he blocked me. So this seems really close to her issue or her saying, I wish we had the opportunity of life together.
And we know it's bad because she's checking LinkedIn. That is how you know it's bad.
Yeah. You're really looking for any crumb when you're checking LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
That's like the last thing you're searching. Jeez, this is awful.
Yeah.
But you could see this all happened because she said it was only a minor misunderstanding for her, but for him, the avoidant, this was a major thing that she said. Okay, she says these were the main problems. Cancellations of visits, more time made me anxious and insecure about his feeling. And who wouldn't feel that way?
Yeah.
If somebody's going to constantly cancel on you, of course you're going to get anxious that they don't care about you. If telling him how I felt about things being a secret or his difficulties not sharing things in his life, he always understood but never did anything about it differently. So he heard her, but he didn't do anything about it. I don't know the reason for the breakup. Wish he would get back and tell me. My question, why leave without a word after 7 years?
Wow.
Did he suddenly not care? Okay, so here are my thoughts. I think this guy does care about you as a person, but he knows he can't give you what you want. He can't give you a life together. And the minute he realized, and it was kind of like put out there for him to think about, I think it overwhelmed him. And he felt a lot of guilt and was thinking, what am I going to do? I care about this woman. I don't want to hurt her, because he never seemed to do anything hurtful. I mean, he was neglectful, but not purposely hurtful, as far as what I could see. So I think he got overwhelmed, scared, and shut down. And he didn't know what to say or do at that point.
To me, this entire situation is bringing a lot of red flags, and I'm also highly skeptical in this situation. We have long periods of time where he's not reaching out to her or letting her know what's going on. You know, we have a lot of this avoidance behavior in what he's telling her, a lot of cancellations, but no follow-up of, hey, you know, you must be feeling really doubtful about this relationship because of all these things. It seems like there's so much that's being unsaid, in addition to not, you know, being involved with the family and friends. That just makes me suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. Not incorporating her into the life. She never met his adult son. She never met his family. And then when she would say, well, tell me about your friends, he would say, well, what does that have to do with us?
And I hate to say it, but there are many people out there living double, triple lives. Okay?
It's certainly possible.
So I don't want to jump to a conclusion. You know, we always say...
Take the jump. Take the jump.
I'm diving in. No,
Jump.
we do often talk about why it's important to, you know, remind ourselves that we don't live in a bubble, to remind ourselves that, you know, our ex might be going through their own personal issues, personal problems. The fact that this situation is so hidden and so obscure, it makes me wonder what's really going on.
It's entirely possible that there could be a whole nother life going on there. There's no doubt about it. Because he's done a good job of completely isolating her from his life. I think he's very avoidant. We don't know what his childhood was like, but we know it's not good, right? So is he married with kids and secretly living a double life? Possible. I don't get the feeling that it's that extreme, but I do think we do know there were a lot of female friends, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was hooking up with other women and was living that kind of lifestyle. I don't know if he's married. I mean, he could be married, right? I mean, it's possible.
Possible.
We don't really have any evidence that points that he does, but there is a lot of suspicious behavior.
And what we like to see in a relationship when somebody is going through a tough time is the ability to depend on your partner. There was a period of time where he had told her that his mother was sick and ill. Now, ideally, it would be great for him to be able to go to her for support, to talk to her on the phone. Man, this is really weighing heavy on me. I don't even know what to say. Maybe he doesn't even want to say anything at all. I just need you on the line. But this is what a healthy, interdependent partnership can look like. I agree that he is extremely avoidant. There are things here that would make me just very suspicious. And so I'm hoping that she's able to look at this perspective from different lenses, but also not immediately jump to blaming herself, which I know is the natural reflex for a lot of people.
You know, if he's a fearful avoidant, he's more likely to just be afraid of the connection and all these things. If he's more like a personality disorder got going on, something like that, then there's more possibilities that there's like a double life going on. But I've noticed one thing. A lot of these guys that do stuff like this are typically described as very sweet. Have you heard that? I've seen that. They're always very sweet.
Someone could
They're
say.
so sweet. They're so sweet to me and thoughtful. Why? I couldn't believe they would do that.
Just keep your eyes open. You know, protect yourself. Clearly here it sounds like your needs weren't getting met. That to me is the bottom line, despite all of our conspiracy theories or whatever it is. Bottom line here is that your needs aren't being met. It doesn't seem like there's been much change. You brought up an excellent red flag to where you continually bringing up your concerns and you're not seeing much change happen from him. So just be aware of these things. This is 7 years of your life invested into this, man.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
I would be really thinking about how much more investment I'm putting into this and what is it going to lead to.
Yeah. There are clearly some missing puzzle pieces that we don't have here. And so we've had to do a bit of speculating as to how extreme the situation is. But regardless, even best case scenario, where he's a fearful avoidant and he doesn't want to disappoint her, doesn't think he's good enough, even if it's not as extreme as a whole other life or whatnot, it's still pretty rough.
Right. And I want to be clear here. I think it would be absurd, I mean absurd, if what you had said with I want an opportunity for a life together was the wrong thing to say or was too much or overwhelming.
Yeah, because she's probably blamed herself.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I'm trying to affirm here is that is perfectly rational and reasonable to say after 7 years. Yeah. You know, it's almost like a joke. You know, when you hear people, that joke where you're at the marriage altar and you're like, so, are you serious about this? Or
are we going through with this or what?
Is this relationship going anywhere? It's to that degree. You know, this is many years invested, and you have a right to speak your desires of what you want for a relationship. So if that was too much for him, really consider what you're getting here. Yeah.
What do you guys think? Leave your comments. Leave your conspiracy in the comments and let us know what you think based on what you heard. Did any red flags go off for you? Anything else that you saw that we didn't say or talk about here? I'd like to see what other people think about this one.
Yeah, I'm curious.
All right, so hopefully you found this one helpful. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.